and welcome to the first episode of State of the Frame. I'm Scott, and that's... Oh, God. Oh, jeez. I'm alone. Oh, no. But that's okay. I knew I was going to be alone because this episode, and the uhs and ums have started already, this episode basically was meant to be with a friend of mine who plays Warframe. I'm Scott, and I'm with nobody on this episode, so you can expect things like some uhs and ums. I actually did a recording of this prior to this recording. However, I didn't like all the uhs and ums, and there was also a popping on the mic, so I'm going to try to prevent the popping on the mic without a proper air filter at this time. The air filter is on the way, but it's not here. Anyway, let's go ahead and get right into things, because the things I have to talk about have a lot to do with why I'm here. So, I'm Scott from Ramble Entertainment on YouTube. Is that someone you should know? Absolutely not. I'm a nobody. And so is Mark, who's on Great Scott Marcus, another show on our channel. We also have a third show that's going to be recorded this week, and that's with another gentleman named Reed, who, as I said, will be joining us. Other than that, no reason to really know us, but hope you want to stick around and get to know us. I'm Scott, and what I want to present to you is State of the Frame. And before I get into the why of State of the Frame and what it's about, I want to tell you a tiny bit about myself. I'll eventually get into more about myself down the road. I'm a guy with chronic pain. So chronic pain came about after I graduated. That's the wrong way. After I graduated college, actually it was just before I graduated, like 2 months before graduation, and I realized I had some pain starting to flare up in my right leg. And so I came home from college and said, okay, why jump into a job if I, might have to have some kind of surgery to correct what's going on? I'm going to work on some sites. I'm going to see, what I can get going, maybe even make a small income or career out of something while I get my health situation figured out. 3 years later. So the site floundered because I couldn't work on it. I couldn't maintain it. The pain got to be that bad that I couldn't sit in front of the desk and attend to what needed to be attended to with that website. So I started playing games. I had been playing games for hundreds of thousands of years. No, most of my life before I, just said I started playing games. Before the site had a lot to do with games and digital entertainment in general. And so to kill time and to keep myself from going insane, I started playing a lot of games. I've invested 1,000 hours into Destiny, and at this point, I've invested almost 2 months of literal time into Warframe. And so let's go ahead and get right into that. Again, why I'm here. Oh, and see, there's a screw up. I posted a graphic over a graphic, and those things are going to happen because not only do I not have somebody to converse with, I have to run the show. I produce everything we're going to do on our channel. Reed and Mark step in to help me out by being there to converse with, both of them having their own intellectual pieces to bring to the conversation, but I do all the production work. Anyway, so State of the Frame, State of Warframe. The reason why I'm here is because, partially due to StarCraft. Basically, way back when I started StarCraft, and I found it was a game that I was very impassioned with and kept returning to it throughout the years, and found the Korean competitive scene, found the esports scene, just found the competitive scene as a whole, became fascinated by it, realized that there's more to the game than just building like 24 carriers and steamrolling computers. And so what I wanted to do with that game was take my skill to another level. However, I found I couldn't. I found that wasn't in me. I just didn't have what it took to sit in front of that one game for 8 to 12 hours at a time and just refine the minutia to make myself a better player. But I still wanted something like that out of a game, and I didn't realize that at the time. So Destiny came along, and I put a lot of time into Destiny, but Destiny wasn't that game either. But the buddy I was going to record this show with decided to pop over to Warframe and stopped playing Destiny with us, and I was just kind of like, why'd he do that? when I had played Warframe for the first time when I first got my PS4, and I'll get to the fact that I'm a console player trying to make a mostly PC-centric game show here in a second. So he popped over to Warframe, and I said, I've tried this game. Wasn't entirely enthralled by it when it had first come out on console, and that's important because when it first came out on console, the game didn't have optimization, it didn't have a proper control scheme, and what I was looking for in a game at that time also didn't mesh with Warframe. But after some 1,000 hours up through the House of Wolves, I decided, my buddy actually came to me, and one of my other Destiny friends said, I'm going to give Warframe a shot. And I said, well, I'll give it a shot with you, why not? And so we started playing Warframe, and what I found was massively different from when I first played. And this is very important and exactly why I'm making a show for you guys. Not only the community, but the variety, the maturity of the game, not being M for mature, but I mean the way in which the game had matured, the way it had built. You look at how the systems had grew, the controls had changed, the introduction to the game had changed. So many things have grown and evolved with this game at a rate almost uncomparable to any other game. Digital Extremes, in my opinion and many opinions of my clanmates and friends, does such a wonderful job with Warframe by comparison to any other game, and almost by any other developer. The only ones that can really measure up to maintaining such a great connection to their community would be someone like Blizzard, and that's about it. Now, there are others out there, but one of the only big names that you can really mention who stays informed and connected and communicative with their community is Blizzard, in my mind, and that kind of returns to the homage to StarCraft. Anyway, so, I'm here to create a show. I'm a console player, kinda weird, but I'm not going to put my name out there with the other people who are already creating content for you guys, the ones who are creating content about the new weapons, about the new frames, telling you how you should be formatting, what they think of this new content. Instead, what I want to do is take a look at a lot of the deeper systems within the game, and possibly even give some suggestions at improvements, because, again, returning to the idea of community behind Warframe, the developers have even said from time to time that this is a game where things are almost basically worked on and done by a community vote. If enough people talk about something, then it gets done. So, let's give us some nice things to talk about to potentially improve the game. Now, real quickly before we get into the rest of what I call the Ramble, Ramble Entertainment basically came about as Mark and I were doing Great Scott Marcus. We realized we like to ramble, which is exactly why I use this format. Unedited, very conversive, very kind of spontaneous. If I have a thought, I'm probably going to talk about it. Man, those weird badgers the other day. Anyway, so we like to ramble, and I'm going to stick with that format for now, do a ramble. Most of the time the rambles will be about things from Warframe, like the next 3 ramble topics to come up. But if that format doesn't work, we'll go ahead and change it. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into the nitty-gritty of Warframe. So, as I said, we'll go ahead and talk about me, myself, maybe Mark sometime, maybe Reed sometime, about who we are and how we got here and why we like to talk in front of a camera, and to you guys, and hopefully you guys will eventually want to join in and be part of our conversations through comments and emails and really form a constructive community. That's what we're talking about. But for now, Sarin, please don't shoot me. So, what I want to talk about will be a slight contradiction to my point of being a console player. This is a personal choice. The Azima. So, recently, PS4 players and Xbox One players are coming into their 100-day logins. I got mine on the first 100-day opportunity. I logged in for 100 straight days and got the Azima, and of course, lo and behold, we discover that the weapon is glitched. It doesn't use its secondary fire where it releases a spinning turret of awesomeness. And so, didn't really get to play with and experiment with the weapon. And again, a lot of people would say to that, well, if you play on PC, glitches get resolved rather fast, within a week's time maybe. That's fine, and again, that's the contradiction to my point, but one of the reasons I play console, and this, why I'm not playing on this powerful PC that processes the video recordings and processes all the information that I put together in editing to make the videos, is because I like the fact that, again, the very the very true console argument of, I just like that it works. If I wanted to play with a controller one night and suddenly my controller isn't working for some reason, I don't enjoy the process of tinkering, figuring out why this controller isn't working on my PC, and then uninstalling, reinstalling, resetting all the controls I initially had. It's a process that I don't enjoy. When things don't work on my PC, it is quite the headache. Some people enjoy that, not me. So, I like it when I come into Warframe, I get an update, and things just work most of the time. A perfect example of this is actually Atlas. Atlas, when he got to us, just worked. However, when he came to PC, it was a few minor updates later, 17.6.2, when Atlas actually became kind of that competitive, higher-tier frame, where he was able to hit hard, but be diverse with some control, and also spread out across the map with his rumblers and in other diverse fashions, with ways in which you might use his moves. So, I liked that when I logged in and I got that update, Atlas just worked. Instead, I didn't have to think of, well, maybe he's going to get updated, but I might miss the information on when he gets updated. And so I might miss an opportunity to start playing with a frame I might really like. Granted, Warframe is a game where you enjoy variety, and I'm going to make that point quite often. However, you don't always get back to that variety as soon as you'd like, You might... a lot of players around me are only just starting to realize the potential of the reworked Ignis, when that was actually back around 18.5... No, 18.5. 18.5 is 2 days from now, on the 7th. Around 18 when it was released in December. So... and I might be wrong on that, so don't quote me if the Ignis was released for consoles around 18, but it was somewhere close to that. So, my point is, I like it when things just work. I don't like to have to kind of make mental notes about, when is the Azima going to work for us? Why can't it just work now? So, it's a personal choice, and I might, if this show goes somewhere, if... there's the, again, see, this is where it's nice to have people to talk to, because as I blank, somebody could be like, I got your back. Don't worry. Don't worry. So, my point is that it's just the way I like to play. It's the way I've always liked to play, on console. I don't care about 60 frames per second. It's nice, but my eyes don't require it. Anyway, so to exemplify why I like... why being a console player will not matter to assessing the state of the game, state of the frame, finger guns. I'd like to talk about the Celestia Syandana. It's not exactly the Syandana that's the problem, it's the system that actually is behind the Syandana that is the problem. Again, people would comment, well, you don't even have the Syandana yet because it's not even on console yet. It will be on console on Thursday. Why are you talking about this? Well, because I can clearly and blatantly identify that the Syandana, from posts on the forums and from just reading about the Syandana and hearing about the Syandana, that it is simply anti-Warframe. What do I mean by that? I mean that basically being a Destiny player who came to Warframe and now won't go back to Destiny, this is something we should actually see in Destiny over Warframe. In Warframe, there is always a conclusion. You should only forma a weapon so many times. Yes, you could go ham and forma every slot, but at some point you've reached a point where that should have concluded. Roughly 4 to 5 forma. Typically, that should max you out with most mods. And so you have those 4 to 5 forma, and from there it's excess. Some people might want to do a little excess in case they want to swap out some mods. But after that, no extra forma is pertinent. So a weapon just becomes concluded to a point. Same with Warframes. You conclude formatting a Warframe, you conclude particular grinds within the game. You conclude syndicates when you get all their stuff, and maybe you want to go to the other syndicates and get all their stuff. You can continue to grind those syndicates to get the mods to sell them, and that's a personal choice. But once you have all those mods for your own benefit and for your own frames and weapons, you don't need to continue to grind those. However, for this Sayandana, you have to continue to grind it. And you have to continue to grind it with some pretty arbitrary goals in mind. Granted, it is very important to understand that there is a purpose behind this DE, would like to improve upon PvP. That is a very reasonable reason to put something like this in the game. Very valid, reasonable reason. A very valid reason to put something like this in the game. We want people playing PvP, because if people play more PvP, maybe we can make those dark sectors into PvP, because we can then maybe establish server-based connections as opposed to peer-to-peer connection, because peer-to-peer connection actually can really cause a lot of the problems that keep people out of PvP. They were on the right track with this, I feel, basically giving a reason to play PvP, to grind up to that top and buy the item, but that really should be enough in and of itself, because that in and of itself is really the idea of Warframe. But to continue to try to build upon this, to try to get this one Sayandana over and over and over again, is very anti-Warframe. You'll see that in other games that some might have actually switched to Warframe because of, like Destiny. So, again, it doesn't take being a PC player to really notice the systems that are in place within the game and to have what could be considered a decent understanding of the game. So, let's go ahead and talk about the final ramble topic of the week. I want to talk about Banshee. And obviously this isn't Banshee. This is a bunch of Warframes. This was the image that DE showed us at Comic-Con, all of the Warframes released. I believe this was supposed to be in order, but I failed to double-check that before this recording, and I really should have. So, what I want to talk about is that on DevStream 72, they showed off a rework for Volt. They showed off the new Banshee skin, which was technically delayed because of the Oberon skin, or not because of the Oberon skin. The Oberon skin came out first. There was no real reason they gave why the Banshee skin was delayed. Yes, it could have been the technical aspects of her aesthetic. I really thought, and I would say reasonably thought, this was a Banshee rework, or at the very least retuning. The reason being that I believe it was roughly 3 to 5 dev streams before this, the 72nd dev stream, they had mentioned that Banshee is one of the least played frames on 2 of the 3 platforms. I believe Xbox and PC are the 2 that she is the least played frame. On PS4, us weirdos don't know what it is. So, why I thought this rework was going to happen was because there have been some hints that they're going in order for primes. Makes sense. Rebecca has kind of said such things on prime times. Again, don't quote me on this stuff, but I have a decent memory. Also on the forums, you could find people talking about how they had mentioned that Sarin Prime was the next Prime at the New York Comic-Con back in what was roughly November or October, and that from here they at least had tentative plans to do frames in order. There's nothing written in stone to that. They don't have to. However, what this concerns me with is actually what would come next. The reason that this concerns me, Excalibur Umbra, and some of you who will listen to this, thank you for listening. I'm Scott. Welcome to Ramble Entertainment here with State of the Frame. The reason this concerns me is because Excalibur Umbra would then interrupt the Prime cycle. And I don't want to be 60 or dead before I see Mesa Prime or Atlas. So, what I was really hoping for out of Umbras was that we would see Umbras coming in between primes. So basically you have 4 primes per year in 90-day cycles, or roughly 90-day cycles, Trinity Prime. And then in between those, you'd have 2 to 3 Umbras. And this would also supplement DE's income, so instead of just having the primes and platinum to rely on, you'd also have an Umbra cycle, where they would release with Umbra packs and maybe even Umbra accessory packs. Unfortunately, I think the chances are pretty darn high with none of these frames, so if they were to go in any kind of order, Vaban nor Necros are basically ready with an entire moveset that functions to be a Prime. You don't have to have an entire functional moveset, an entire cohesive moveset to be a Prime, but for those two it would make sense. Bouncy pads are basically negated by Movement 2.0. Thank you, Scott. You're welcome, Scott. And Necros, yes, very efficient as a farmer, but a lot of his moves don't really translate well into the rest of the game. Right around the late, mid-tier of play, they start to drop off, and when you're selling something, you want a full package, or at least something that looks near a full package. Valkyr was recently retuned, and yes, we could see a Valkyr Prime. Probably not. I feel like starting to jump around would be non-beneficial to DE when they've already gone through Excalibur, Ash, Ember, Loki, Mag, Rhino, Trinity, Volt, Frost, Nyx, and now Sarin. The only one who then jumps off that list is Nova. There are plenty of different reasonings that could really be said. Well, they're beholden to nothing. They can do as they please, of course. But then, the frames that truly look ready, mostly Valkyr, mostly Mirage. Mesa's kind of a Mesa right now. And you could do Mesa. I'm sure people would enjoy Mesa, but I think she should really be retuned and be tuned to something closer to Atlas, where her guns function more like his fists. And so, from the list, I don't see many real potential options that are incredibly well-rounded. You could say, well, there are supports, like Oberon, but Oberon doesn't measure up to, of course, the Queen of Supports, Trinity. And I'll be getting to that in time. We'll be talking about the Trinity conundrum in good time. Probably next week. So, let's go ahead and Umbra might be revealed on the 23rd at Comic-Con. No, not Comic-Con, PAX East. They might do a bit of a reveal. I don't see Umbra arriving in 19, but it could be very possible. I feel like 20 would be the proper time, likely with what will be Star Chart 3.0. The reason I'm leaning towards that is because that's what you see Steve tweeting the most about, the work on Star Chart 3.0. It seems like a very eventful update, a place for something like an Umbra to arrive, and where 19 should likely land either late next month for PC or very, very early in May. You know, everybody will likely see Update 20 about midsummer, and that makes sense. Halfway through the year, you just have this kind of big event. There aren't a lot of games out. You really, reinvigorate Tenno, Warframe players, and say, hey guys, check this out. Because, as this next segment is going to highlight, you can't always be playing Warframe. Some of you can, but not everybody, and that's what I call the between updates. Now, this might have worked better in a conversational segment with somebody else to talk to, but until it seems like it doesn't work, I'm going to give it a shot. So, between updates is basically about a long period between updates, like for us console Tenno. It's been a long time, DE. Please give us an update before 19. Like, just, come on, guys. You got this. I believe in you guys. So, yeah, I want to talk about something that's really been on my mind since Final Fantasy 15 Uncovered, and that's really having an itch for Final Fantasy. And yeah, that's what I've really wanted to play in between waiting for 18.5. And I was shocked at how the Final Fantasy 15 event actually got me really pumped for Final Fantasy 15. I was just kind of like streaming along. I was like, whatever, when it comes out, I'll check it out. But I'm pumped. I think they actually have something great here. That Florence and the Machine song really resonates within me. Stand By Me. If you guys haven't seen those trailers from Final Fantasy 15 Uncovered, go listen to that song as just scenery from the game plays. We're actually going to be doing an analysis on our new show of the trailers and just kind of really get down into the nitty-gritty of these trailers and what they could really tell us about what might be coming in the game. So stay tuned for that. That will likely post next week. But we're also considering a weekend time for posting videos. So, other than that, yeah, playing some Final Fantasies here and there, and let's go ahead and get into the main topic before I close out this segment, because we typically do these shows in part 1 and part 2. Things that I just want to talk about are, yeah, this is a ramble, under Ramble Entertainment, so, please appreciate that this is meant to be in this format. It might not entirely work, and I might change that because it's just me not having a conversation with somebody else. Having a conversation with you guys, please feel free to comment, and also maybe like and share and do that whole subscribe thing. I know you hear that a lot, and I'm not trying to be another person who's just beating that drum. But to, a small channel like us that has only 5 subscribers at this moment, at the time of this recording, that means a hell of a lot more to us than, oh, we have 100,000 subscribers. We just got another subscriber. Neat. For us, each one right now is very meaningful. And that's not to say you guys won't be meaningful later, but obviously you can see in being a member of such a large audience that it's hard to, get hyped about those numbers. That's when people start to talk about things like 3 million and all that crap. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this ramble about some of these Warframe topics, and in the next video, in the topic of the week, I'll be talking about AoE weapons and how they have a pretty large dominance within the game at the moment. So check that out.